My name is Chris Bolton. I'm in the kitchen with my grandfather, Elder McClendon. Grandfather, when was you born?
November the 26th, 1919.
How far back can you remember?
Well, that's been 64 years ago, and I can easily remember 60 years back.
When did you started your chores?
At a very early age. I guess I was around 3 or 4 years old. I remember very well my first assigned duties. At that time, all people, especially out on the farm like myself, and all of us, we cooked with a wood-burning stove. We had stove wood we burn in the stove, and it was always my job to get that stove wood in at night and also during cooking time, and then go to the well and get water, which you didn't have running water in your house. You'd have to go to the well and draw it. Draw it up, carry it in to wash dishes, drinking water, and whatever your mother told you to do, that was it. That's what we did.
Well, could you name some more chores you done?
Well, sure, around there, I'm talking of the house duties. And then, of course, we had work to do out in the field. We'd have around 40 acres of cotton, that many corn, plus hay, soybean hay, and so forth. So he was always busy filling up the ground distributor to put out fertilizer, to plant the seeds, carry water to the older ones while they was plowing. Then when the crops got up large enough to start cultivating, we had to go to the field with a hoe and hoe the crops out. Corn, cotton, and of course we never did hoe the hay. Then time to come along about anywhere from 8th of July to the 15th, we'd give the plowing the last, we'd plow the crops the last one time. That was called laying it by. We'd put a siding dress on the side of it, drop it off with soda. That was side dressing. And then older brothers would come on with the plow and plow it under. That was called laying the crops by. Then we'd go to get through laying by, and then we always had a summer school session. In the summer they teach school about 6 weeks. Then in the fall of the year they turn out about 6 weeks for the people to what they call cotton picking weather. They turn out for that for about 6 weeks, and then you had to make it up in the summer. And you was busy constantly. When you wasn't in school, you was either working in the garden, gathering vegetables for your mother to cook, or can them, or going out in the big orchard, getting your apples, peaches to cook, dry, whatever she wanted to do with them. Then there, of course, was your cabbage. You'd put up your own kraut. It was my job to go get the cabbage head, bring them in, and then put her kraut up in a big 60-gallon drum, or a barrel, rather. And the cabbage would, what they call work off, it turned sour some way, and then they'd can it, and that was good food in the wintertime. Then by that time, it was time to go to the field and start gathering your crops, corn, cotton, hay. You was always busy. By the time you got that done, then you had to go to the woods and cut wood. You cut firewood for your fireplace and stove wood for the stoves. And you didn't have any leisure time back then like kids do today. You didn't have to lay around, I'm bored, I've got nothing to do. We had plenty to do. There's a big event if we get off a half a day out from Monday through Saturday. If we had a half a day off, well, we thought we was in heaven.
Dad, when you had time off, what kind of games did you play for fun?
Well, we had our own games. We'd play hide and go seek, knock the can, or baseball, like played baseball, but the only difference, we didn't have a baseball to play with. You had to play with homemade balls and bats. We'd make our own balls. We'd take a sock the men wore to work, call them work socks. You start at the top and get it started unraveling, and there's enough thread on one sock to make a good ball. You try to put in the center of the ball a rubber ball or golf ball if you could find one. If you couldn't, just take some old rubber from an inner tube, roll it up in as round a ball as you could, then start rotating your thread around it. Keep rolling, rolling, rolling until you get your ball the size you wanted. Then when you got the size you wanted, the last ravel that you unravel, you'd hold the end of it, carry it to your mother. She'd take a needle and sew it good for you. Then you go to the woods and play ball, but you'd have to make your bats. Therefore, if you wanted a flat bat, We'd used 2 before. If you wanted to round that, we'd go to the woods and cut a beech tree down and try not to get too large a one. Cut it, then you cut it in 4ths and then carry it to the house with the anvil, hold it and vise and put it in there and hew it down the size you wanted. Just when you got through with it, the finishing touch was you'd use a piece of glass to scrape it down, and it'd fix the baseball as bad as pretty as the ones you find today. That's what we played with.
You said something about not the cans, a can or something like that. How did you play that?
You'd get your stick of wood, big old firewood, stand up on the end, put a can on it. You had bases to run. And we'd play that, usually 2 would play that. We'd knock that can just as far as we could, and the other one would have to be behind the home plate. You'd have to run and get that can and come back to home plate before you did, and if you didn't, you was out. If he could run to these 3 bases and get back before he did, that was 1 score. Vice versa, when we played, you got 3 outs. Then you'd have to run the can down while he did the same thing.
Okay. What was the roads made out of?
It was all dirt roads back then. You didn't see any paved roads. I didn't see a paved road till I was almost grown. Well, I went to Albertville, this town we'd go to. I saw some sidewalks. I remember going up there when they didn't even have paved streets.
Okay, what was your transportation?
Mules and wagon, mules and buggy, mules and surrey. Then the surrey is a 2-seated buggy, is what it is. Got 9 springs on it, ride good. And then your wagons, of course, is just that old rough riding wagon. That's the transportation we had. I remember one time when I was small, my dad bought what they call an old T-model car. It's a 1920-something model, but what year I couldn't tell you. But you couldn't get it to run half the time, so if you depended on some transportation and want to go somewhere, you better just hook the old mules up and take off, or walk.
Okay. What was your guns like?
They had shotguns back then, and 22 rifles, single shots. You didn't have any automatics back then. You'd have a double barrel shotgun, 12, 16, or 20. Some of them had the old-time 10-gauge guns. And, of course, they'd have turkey shoots, like they do today then. And I know my dad had a 20-gauge shotgun that everybody with a turkey shoot wanted to shoot it. It must have been true, for they'd win 2 or 3 turkeys with it every time they'd go to one.
Okay. Did y'all have any guns?
Yes, we had shotguns, but I never was allowed to touch one till just the year before I went in the Army. I went in the Army as a kid.